Hello, friends. Welcome to EduTap. I welcome you all in the success story series that we are running on. And today we have one such successful aspirant with us. Sorry, not the aspirant. He is right now the RBI Grade B manager. Let me introduce to you Mr. Yash.
Thank you,
Hello,
sir.
Yash.
Thank you. Very much.
First of all, many congratulations to you.
Thank
It's a
you, sir.
dream come true to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
So,
finally relieved that I'm out of the exam cycle. So being out of the exam cycle is more relieving than getting selected in the RBI exam.
yeah.
Because
So, how's the feeling right now?
I'm feeling very fine. It's a very subtle feeling that you have actually cleared the exam. You have been preparing for so long, and so much efforts have been put into this preparation. So finally, it's all your efforts have been realized. That's a very good feeling when you achieve
So,
that.
so when you are saying very long, so
Yes, sir.
actually we want to know about your background, your educational background, and when you are mentioning the long, we also want to know the examinations that you have appeared. If you have appeared for RBI, how many attempts you have taken? If there is any other exam for which you have appeared, please mention it. Yeah.
Sir, my background is that I completed my graduation from BHU, IIT BHU in 2014. After that, I decided to solely prepare for the civil service examination. I didn't took a job, and then I prepared for exam for almost 3 years. After that, I worked in a startup for 1 year, and then I joined a coaching institute, and there I was responsible for taking the evaluation copies and all. And in 2017 itself, I started preparing for the RBI. So all in all, this was my fourth attempt, and in the first three attempts, I was not able to clear the even the prelim stage. So in the fourth attempt, I was able to clear the mains and interview in the one go. So that's all the background. And in the last year in 2020, I joined a distance MBA in banking and finance from an MIMS institute.
Okay. So was there any particular reason that you have joined this for MBA course?
Sir, in the 2019 videos, in the 2019 interview transcripts, I have seen that many times the interview panel asks the candidates that if you have interest in economic and finance, then why you haven't taken any course, any formal training or formal degree? So I thought that one day or the other I have to go into the interview stage. I had faith in my abilities, and I believe that. So I decided in 2020 itself that if I'm going to give the 2021 exam, and if I'm going to reach the interview stage, then this question might also come to me. So better join a course, better learn something, because it was the COVID times. I was getting a lot of time. So I decided to enroll in a course which would help me and gain more marks in my interview stage. So it was a totally a risk, and I believe that it was worth it.
Actually, it is not the confidence, it is the efforts that you have put in, I think. If I'm right?
Yes.
So, see, you are saying that you have appeared, I think, this for this RBI exam. You cleared this RBI exam in the fourth attempt.
Yes, sir.
So, a lot of hardship has been faced by you over the years from 2000. You joined a firm in 2017.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, initially there was a gap of 3 years. Then
Exactly.
a few unsuccessful attempts at RBI
Yes.
and UPSC.
Yes, sir.
So, there is a lot of hardship that you have faced.
Yes.
How you overcome that?
Oh, yes, sir. It was a lot of hardships. I actually being after putting so many efforts, results are not coming. Then you actually get demotivated. You started doubting yourself. But at those times, your support system will come into play. My mother, my father played a crucial role in supporting me, in giving me confidence, in believing in my own abilities. Because at such times, you start doubting yourself. If if there is no self confidence, you can never achieve a good result. So first and foremost, the most important thing is your self confidence, and for that, friends and family play a major role. So I had confidence in my abilities. I had confidence that I would be able to do it. It was just a matter of time, just pushing hard, just focusing. Results sometimes, see, such exams are very highly competitive. It's not that if you fail, you are a worse your other candidates are very good and you are not, you are very poor. It's not that. It's just that competition is intense, seats are very less. Someday or the other things will turn out. If not today, tomorrow it will. So just believe in your abilities and believe in that everything happens for a good. If you're not getting selected, then it might be that you might become a better person, and ultimately you will lead a good life.
So, such a beautiful lines for our senior players who are already in the game and missed out by a few margin. Guys, see the man in front of you who has seen the hardship for long and how he is composed and confident for his adventures. Even you can see he has enrolled for the MBA course and how he was sure that he will make it to the RBI. Now he is RBI Grade B manager.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Yash, that was about this, your background, about the educational background and the different details that you have shared. Now, coming to the most important part, which is about the strategy,
Yes.
the phase one, the phase two, and the interview. We will proceed like this only.
Okay, okay, sir.
But first of all, the question that I want to ask you is how you manage these three stages. Was there was a separate preparation, or was it a holistic preparation in totality that you were focusing only on the syllabus part of the phase two, or whatever you want to share with us?
Sir, it was a holistic and integrated preparation.
Yeah.
It was not like that I will first focus on phase one, then I'll move to the phase two. It was like give equal time to both phase one and phase two. But when the phase one is near, solely prepare for the phase one. In my first three attempts, I took the phase one very lightly. It was like I am from an engineering background, then I would be able to attempt the QRE section very good. But didn't turn out because QRE requires practice in a time pressure. And for all the engineers out there, it's not a cakewalk. Because there is a time pressure on you, so you have to practice a lot for the QRE section. So in a way, I gave 1 hour daily. It was like a daily practicing of QRE, even for 5 questions, even for 5 questions of reasoning, even for 5 questions of quant. Just practice for a longer period of time and prepare in a holistic manner.
Okay. So actually, I can relate it to you because even during my time of preparations, it was late 14 to 17, I think. When I dropped out, you joined the preparation. So during that time, many of my friends, they were very good in QRE.
Okay.
So they used to prepare only for the phase one. And they even qualify for the phase one, but in the phase two, they were not preparing the syllabus. So they were easily out. So
Yes,
guys,
yes.
as suggested by the Yash, we need to focus on both the phase one as well as phase two,
Yes, yes, yes.
holistically. Okay.
Holistic.
So that was a good advice by you. But now coming to the resources that you have relied on. For the phase one, especially, what was your resource that you relied on for the GA section? And what was your strategy related to the QRE section? The two components we will discuss it like this. First GA and then QRE. Yeah.
For the GA, I followed the EduTap and particularly the Affairs Cloud. And for the QRE, I followed the mock test, which was the All India mock test organized by the EduTap, because I believe that in the All India mock test, you get to know about your ranks. And it's very important in a competitive examination to know about what ranks and how what is your standing among your peers, among your aspirants. So this was my main source for the QRE and the phase one particularly.
Okay. And what was your resources for the phase two?
Phase two, I relied on the content sheet prepared by the EduTap and some Google search also about the different topics. And also I followed the strategy videos uploaded by Anchit sir of EduTap, and particularly the management part where he mentioned that you need to write examples, because after all in management there are a lot of theories, you write just theories, but how to show your application part. So that's something which I learned from the Anchit sir, and I believe that actually made a difference.
Okay. So let's come to the phase two. Let's discuss this in detail because a lot of aspirants will be asking multiple questions for the phase two. So out of English, finance and management, and ESI, which is the most scoring subject?
Yes, the most scoring subjects are is financial management and the English.
Okay.
Now people assume that the financial management is the most tough or is the most tricky part, but actually it's the ESI.
Okay.
Financial management in RBI is easy. They do not ask tough questions, but in ESI, given the syllabus is infinite, because there are so much of things involved in it. If students is not students should focus more on the finance management to cover the easy part first, and the ESI will go on. And generally, even I have committed the mistake of not practicing English a lot. For the other exams, I have not practiced the English, but for the RBI exam, this time I practiced the English as well. The English descriptive, précis writing, comprehension part. So for the English part, practice will help in getting more marks, and practice is required. And for the FM, just read, and if you're able to score, good. And for ESI, there is a repeated revision is required. Continuous revision is required.
Okay. So let's talk about the subject wise. We will be talking about ESI. You have mentioned it is one of the toughest subject to score in, and you
Yes,
compared it to the other subjects.
yes, 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 yes.
So, what was your strategy regarding the ESI? Because ESI comprises of lot of current affairs, especially
Definitely.
we can see this year a lot of schemes have been asked. A lot of
Yes,
questions were there from the scheme in the objective part. So,
yes,
how you
yes,
covered all that portion?
yes. So basically, as I mentioned, for the current affairs part, I followed one source, Affairs Cloud, and I believe that you should only stick to one source. There are a lot of sources available in the market, but if you follow one source and stick with it completely, because the current affairs are going to be the same. And for the schemes part, I relied on Vision IS document, which is very comprehensive, and they upload the schemes. And even I have watched your videos as well, the scheme step videos. And because you focus on one scheme at a time, I believe that which is very important, because I always tell the students to not learn things in one go. Many a times we feel that okay, I'll give 6 hours to scheme, okay, I'll give 2 days to schemes, or for the next 3 days I will do just schemes. So that's a very bad strategy, because you need to understand the scientific process behind which that goes on when you learn. So first, I would advise just see the videos. If it's possible, just see the video without pressurizing your brain. Then write it down. Then revise it. So there's a three layered process. If you follow that process diligently, you will be able to retain the matter for a long period of time. So in this way, I covered the schemes and the content sheet. I've already mentioned that in ESI particularly, the focus is on the current affairs rather than the static part.
Study.
So current affairs is more important in ESI, and the schemes is very important. Reports you have to cover from the current affair part only. So this was all about my ESI strategy.
Yes. Okay. See, being a UPSC aspirant also, so do you think you have an upper edge because this year descriptive portion was added? So do you really think that this descriptive portion being which is being added by the RBI provides an upper edge to the UPSC aspirants?
I believe that in somewhat yes, it does provide an upper edge, but doesn't mean that the other non-UPSC candidates cannot score. The reason I tell you, the reason is that the RBI is asking very simple questions. They are not asking UPSC type questions. A UPSC aspirant prepares very difficult questions. Like they're very contorted form. There are multiple questions in one question. But in the RBI, if you see, in the initial years particularly, we can be assured that the questions are going to be very simple and very direct, because they have not saturated. They have asked for, they have, for example, the fintech was added in this years, and they have not asked the question of fintech. So the next year, there is a high probability that they will ask a simple question on fintech. So for the candidates who are seeing this, I would advise also that you should prepare 1,000 word content on each topic. 1,000 word content includes that you should write what exactly is fintech, why fintech, how it's going to change it, what are the challenges, how government is going to address the fintech problem, or what RBI is doing in it. So all in all, if you prepare a 1,000 word content, there are high chances that some there among the questions will be in your content only. You will be able to answer it, you will be able to remember it. And so in a way also, there is another thing that you could revise, you could memorize the introduction part. So what exactly is introduction? Introduction is basically your definition, recent events. If they ask fintech, you have to define what is fintech. So in a way, if you have memorized the definition, you will be able to write it. And the conclusion part should be your future orientation. You should give a target. For example, you should learn all the targets that are prepared by the government as well as the RBI. RBI releases their vision document that in 2022 we are going to do this. There's a NFSI, National Financial Strategy, or financial strategy education. There are different strategies. Learn, identify those targets, learn those targets, and use them as your conclusion. So if you are already prepared for the introduction, you already prepared with conclusion, and in the body, write subheadings. So if you are able to write subheadings and then substantiate with data, learn some data points. You're already learning so much. Learn some data points for each topic. Because if you write data, your time will be saved and you will be able to write very fast. So ultimately, it's not just about the content. It's also about writing the things very fast, because you have a very less period of time. So in a way, UPSC candidate is not in an advantage position. Your strategy will take you in an advantageous position. If you follow the right strategy, you will be able to score more marks.
Okay. And actually, there are two more subjects on which you have to focus. There is English and there is finance and management. And management is generally which is not being covered by all of the UPSC aspirants. It is
Yes,
just a few
exactly,
those
sir.
who those have the management as an optional only.
Exactly.
So though you have covered multiple points regarding the descriptive, there are a few more points which I want again to you
Yes, sir.
elaborate.
Yes,
See, one question is there are almost 2,000 words you have to type in
yes,
90 minutes.
yes, sir.
So is it practically feasible or what was your approach regarding this? What is your approach regarding? What was your approach regarding the word limit?
Okay. Sir, actually, I was, even when I came to know that we have to write 2,000 words. So one of my friend, who Saurabh, who is also selected. So
Yeah.
we discussed that we will write only 50% of the words. We will not able to write 2,000. It was like we are not going to do it. We are not going to achieve that target. But when the question came, the question was direct, and we had prepared the content. So when the question is direct and you have already prepared the content, you are able to reproduce it very fast. So I was able to write 1,800 words. So for the 15 markers, I was able to write 550 words, not 600, but 550, around 550. And for the 10 markers, 300 plus.
Okay.
So I was able to write 1,800 words in FM and 1,700 words in ESI. So it's basically because I memorized the data points. I had already prepared introduction and conclusion beforehand of different parts, because there was direct questions. I knew that this is going to be the first time they're going to ask the direct questions. There would be no any multiple questions in one question. So for the future aspirants also, I would recommend advice that you have to prepare introduction conclusion beforehand and prepare some data points. And one thing for the management, I would advise you to prepare some case studies, as recommended by Anchit sir. That, for example, in my question of transformation as a transactional leader, I actually quoted that there is a transformation leader like Satya Nadella, who has helped the Microsoft to become a billion-dollar company, from a billion-dollar to a trillion-dollar company. Then in the corporate governance question, I specifically mentioned case study. I just wrote that case study word, even though it was not a case study, but actually wrote to show examiner, to tell examiner that I am writing a case study. And then I wrote about the Yes Bank Rana Kapoor scam and the McKinsey insider trading. So basically, these are certain ways in which you can impress the examiner and can achieve the target in a stipulated time period.
Okay. And what is your take on the word limit when compared with the quality? Suppose there is someone who is not that much comfortable with the word limit. So what's your take? Should we try to approach the word limit, or should we go with the quality rather than compromise with the word limit?
So quality takes precedence, no
Quality
doubt.
takes, yeah.
Quality is more important, but sometimes you're not able to write in a better quality of all the questions. You cannot write it with a good quality. So if you are able to focus on quality, it's good. If you're not, do not have the content, just try to push the quantity part, because ultimately the words written by you will be shown on the paper. An examiner will be aware of it, that you are able to write this much words only. So first focus on the quality. Even if you do not have the quality in the answer, if you do not remember it, try to achieve the target. But it's a strategy when you do not have any quality. But I would say that first focus on quality, and the quality can come through data points, can come through examples, can come through introduction and conclusion. Conclusion, which should be a future orientation. Write about sustainable development goals. There was a question on poverty. You should have mentioned in conclusion SDG goal 1. So all these things does help and will help you to achieve the descriptive paper in a better manner.
So if I try to summarize it, you are suggesting that we should code data along
Yes.
with some real life example wherever
Yes.
they are possible.
Yes, in descriptive part, that could help.
Descriptive, yeah.
Yes.
There is one more question that I want to ask you regarding the descriptive, that how should we write the answer? Should it be in a paragraph form or in the point wise?
Sir, I followed a mixed approach. It depends upon the question. For example, if the question is write 5 major points of budget, then you will obviously write in the 5 major points. And then there are questions like how globalization has changed the global trade. If I think this was a question. So basically, I use the paragraph approach, but in the paragraph approach also, I followed a subheadings. Many a times students are not aware of it, that the subheadings play a major role, because you have to make the life of examiner easy. And you can do it by writing subheadings, because if you write the subheadings, examiner will know, okay, what that I know the answer, so he will just read the subheadings and he will award me the marks, he or she. So basically, you should focus on the subheadings part in the paragraph form, and the points form also you can do that. So basically, it's a mixed approach. We cannot segregate, we cannot identify that, okay, follow only the, we cannot go with the hard and fast rule that we should write only in points. No, we should write only in paragraphs. But if you follow with data, examples, everything will fall in line.
Okay. Yeah, there is one question that I have missed in between. We have talked about the resources regarding the ESI, but we have missed about the finance and management. So if you want to please elaborate regarding the resources that on which you have relied upon.
I relied only on the EduTap material, and it's just very honest answer, because you do not get good material on finance. Because if you start searching on the internet, you will get lost that what to read, what not to read. So learn finance management purely from the EduTap, which has helped me a lot.
Thank you so much. So I think we have covered most of the point regarding the phase two of our examination. Now, coming to a general question,
Hmm.
you have mentioned that you have exhausted your UPSC attempts, and this was also your fourth attempt in the RBI. So,
Yes.
was there any backup plan?
I'm currently working in a coaching institute,
Yeah.
and if the backup plan would be to continue with the same institute, or since I've told that I'm also pursuing the MBA program, distance MBA, I would try to find a new career in that field. So it was not a backup plan in that sense that it was not a fully prepared backup plan, but yes, this was it.
Okay. So, what you want to suggest to the UPSC aspirants as RBI as in a career? Because many of the time UPSC students, aspirants feel that they have exhausted their attempts and now they have no other option. But they are generally not that much aware of about this RBI exam, but they never took this seriously.
Yes,
So,
yes.
what is your opinion regarding this?
I would just say to the aspirants that, see, why are you preparing for the IAS, or why are you preparing for the IPS? You basically wants to be a spearhead the change in the nation. The ultimate, they are just means, they are not the ends. The means, IAS IPS are the means, and the end is to spearhead change or to bring some reforms in the nation at a wide level. If you are not able to do that through IAS or IPS, then the RBI also provides a similar opportunity, but in a financial domain, because RBI as an organization is also involved in a lot many functions, be it forex, be it the banking system, be it the payment and settlement, being the formulation of monetary policy. You also get a different opportunities being in an RBI. You will actually work with the Department of Financial Services when it comes to the financial inclusion. You work in different state organizations. You work with you actually get to work with in the big level secretaries in the for promoting financial inclusion part. So you are actually ultimately through RBI also, through ISIPS also, you are playing a major role in spearheading change. But yes, I understand that in RBI, ISIPS you get an individual power. Then there are high risk and rewards for that also.
Yeah.
Because if you do commit a mistake, then you are the only person you're going to be blamed. But in the RBI, there's a lot of collective power. You will not get that glamour that, okay, this person, you will be known as an RBI person. But ultimately, if you look in a larger scheme of things, you are playing a major role in changing the nation's economy and going forward. So this, I would suggest that RBI is almost equivalent, and ultimately depends on the individual perception. But
Yeah.
it's my opinion.
That's I think that's a complete elaboration regarding the comparison of both the jobs. No one can explain it much better than you.
Thank you.
Now coming to the interview part,
Yes, sir.
we have discussed the strategy related to the phase one, phase two, and now let's start with the interview, the big day.
Yes, sir.
See, what was your resources regarding the interview? Let's start with this
So I basically followed the newspaper
newspaper.
majorly. In phase two, I followed the newspaper, but it was after. I would just advise students that to start reading newspaper after the economic survey and budget are released. Even if you have not read the newspaper, it's fine. But once the budget and the economic survey are released, start reading newspaper, because the whole dynamics changes. New things come up. Economic survey talks about different things, and in the following days, the newspaper only talks about this. And considering the RBI is going to happen in March and April, again, same months, Feb, March, April are very important. Many times people talk only about the new changes that have been come in the budget part. Different economic experts talk about it. So it's very important to read the newspaper since Feb, when the budget is released. So in the interview part also, I continued with my preparation for I started reading newspapers. Now I started reading multiple newspapers. Initially, I was focusing more on the business standard, but then I started reading editorials of Life Mint, Financial Express, because interview is very important, and for that you have to get to know about different aspects of the economy. Focus only on this newspaper part. And then there is a working PDF which is released by the RBI. You get to know about the different functions of the RBI, how RBI functions, what exactly is the meaning of supervision, what is the difference between regulation and supervision. You actually do not study for the mains, but for the interview, the interviewer is looking for the person who is highly interested in RBI. And how to show your interest? By knowing about RBI, by knowing the RBI website, what are the subheadings. It sounds childish, but you should be aware of the subheadings. Oh, sorry, what should I say? Uh, the tabs that
Yeah.
are mentioned in the website. So you should be aware of it. You should be aware of the recent speeches that have been released by the RBI person, be the deputy governor or the governor. You should read the monetary policy statement fully. At that time, you should focus on the RBI. I'll tell you one incident in my interview that took place. It's basically they asked me about the banks versus NBFC. So when they asked about bank, I knew that they are looking for a person who is aware of the RBI website as well. So when they're asking about banks versus NBFC, in the end, I answered that, sir, in the RBI website in January, a discussion paper was released on the NBFC based on the scale-based approach, how to approach the NBFC. So actually mentioned that in the RBI website in January it was released. So basically it showed that, okay, I'm reading the website regularly. So in the interview, there are certain 5 to 6 points which you have to show that you're reading RBI website, you know about the departments. So when I talk, so they asked me about the currency management. So actually told them that there is a department of currency management, DCM. So it was like I'm aware of the departments as well, the full name of the departments. And they asked me about the monetary policy. So I actually tell them, sir, recently on 6th August. So I quote the exact dates. So basically, it shows that you are highly interested. You have to show the interest only in the interview. So this is the basic about it.
Okay. So was the panel cordial or it was quite strict
The
in
panel was
attitude? Cordial,
panel was very cordial.
very cordial. And there is one more question. Was there any question for which you have said no?
No, I was able to answer all the questions.
All the questions,
So
which is also reflected in your talks, because the way
uh,
you are explaining the resources and the way you are explaining that you even mentioned the dates. So
actually
that
mentioned
shows
the
your
date. I actually mentioned the inflation data with 2 decimal points.
okay.
So basically, you want to show that you are data oriented as well.
Okay.
If they ask me about the financial inclusion, I actually told them they said the financial inclusion 58% in 2014, 90%, and even for the inflation data, I actually mentioned 5.559. The recent data was released was 5.59. So basically, I told them. So I knew that what they're looking for. So aspirants should know that interview panel is looking for a candidate who is a data oriented, who supports argument with data, who is aware of the RBI website, who is aware of the different functions of RBI. So these are 3 to 4 major points everyone should try to inculcate in their answers while practicing.
Okay. So what was your attire for the day? What you were wearing on that day?
I wear a normal coat and pant, coat and trousers, coat, tie, and this.
Okay. And have you taken any mock interview?
Yes, I have taken a mock interviews, uh, but I would suggest candidates. See, mock interviews are just one. Because of the lack of the resources of the coaching institutes, there are considerations because you cannot take mock regularly. But for the aspirants, it's very important to take mock regularly. And what is the way? The one way is to form a community. See, Telegram groups, many a times you meet with the fellow aspirants who are going to give the interview. So you can form your own small group. I also formed a small group of 3 to 4 people, and we used to take mock regularly. So it was fixed that at 10 p.m. we are going to take a mock. So on a daily basis for 1 month. So it was like I've given a lot of mocks in a sense to give friends, then to the coaching institutes, because for example, I've given mock to S. Raja sir, which was the EduTap interview. So they helped me. They actually told me to read websites, something. They gave me some good, beautiful insights. So you can use them, but at the same time, for a regular practice, for improving your own weaknesses. Because if you feel that you're not able to give, your facial expressions are down. So with friends, you can practice. You cannot practice knowledge with your friends. You cannot improve your knowledge level, but you can improve non-verbal communication very well with the friends. So you focus on that as well.
Okay. So there is one question that is coming in my mind, and there is a rumor in the market that this RBI panel is generally biased against the UPSC aspirants. Is it true?
I don't believe so. Sir, you can say, but actually they are looking for a person who is continuously striving for knowledge. And I'll tell you the reason. For example, if you are preparing for the UPSC attempt, UPSC, so you have graduated in 2016 or 2017. After that, you're saying that I am preparing for the UPSC, and you have not been able to clear it because that's why you are in front of the panel. So basically, it shows that your knowledge has stopped in the 2016-17 itself. Now, I understand. I also face the same situation. It's not that you are practicing a lot. Being a UPSC aspirant, you are giving a lot. You are learning a lot of things, but people do not understand this. It's a I cannot say, but you have to make them understand by showing by undergoing a course. What I would suggest, okay, 2016, 2017 was your last year, or 2018 or 2019 for that matter. But in 2021, you have a zeal, you have enthusiasm to learn, and how to show how by joining a course. There are free mock tests. There are even the Swayam platform. There are certificate courses of the IIM Bangalore. Do that. They are aligned with your mains syllabus. It's not that something different you have to learn. It's aligned with your syllabus as well.
So basically, it's all comes to one single point, that how you explain it in the interview.
Yeah,
Doesn't
exactly.
matter if it's your weakness, if it's your strength, but it's how you explain it to the panel.
Yes, yes, that's also matter. That also matters. That if you're able to explain that, no, sir, I've been reading a lot, I've been preparing, I've been enrolled in such course, I have also done that, I have also done that. So basically, you have to show that you are continuously striving for knowledge of our new learning things.
Okay. So I think that was all about the strategy part. Let's now come to some general questions.
Yes, sir.
See, there are a lot of aspirants who have this in mind, that every year new aspirants come into this Game of Thrones every year.
Yes.
And is there any advantage for a senior player when they compare to the, because aspirants see what they see, that there are so many senior players, how can I compete with them? How a newcomer can overcome that feeling?
See, the advantage is not that much because the paper is current affairs oriented. Current affairs change dynamically. They are not going to be remain static. So even for the senior players, even for I was a senior player, it was very tough to again read the same current affair material, again read all the schemes, because schemes also update. They might
Yeah.
ask some old scheme, but then the schemes also update. In the last year, the COVID, everything was changed. There was a COVID package, Atmanirbhar Abhiyan package, everything was changed. You have to learn. So in a sense, they do not have an advantage. For the senior players, they have an advantage of their own mistakes that they've committed. They have an experience for it. For example, if they have not given proper time to phase one, so now they understand the importance of phase one. So this is in a sense, we can say that's a balance, that in a way newcomer has a zeal, energy, that they have a confidence, and for the seniors the confidence, they have to push themselves up. So in a way, it's not that the newcomers have a huge advantage. Everything is on the same line.
And I think in terms of syllabus as well, like there are a lot of rumors like UPSC aspirants have an advantage. But if when we compare the syllabus, though
Yes.
syllabus might seem the same, but the type of question that has been asked in the RBI is completely different than what they are asked in the UPSC.
The finance and management is not in the syllabus of UPSC.
Yeah.
Even if the ESI is in the syllabus, but the type of questions that the RBI is asking is not aligned with the UPSC.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like not even the ESI, not even the FM. Even the essay part, I just remember the essay was, we have to write in 300 words. I wrote for the 400 words. Then I realized, okay, I have to write 300 words. Then it became a very huge challenge for me. What to cut, what to edit.
Yeah.
Because you have to summarize your essay in 300 words. So it's a different game.
Yeah.
So it seems very simple. Okay, we are writing 1,000 word essay. Now we can easily write 300 words. But you have to summarize all the content in 300 words becomes very difficult. What to write, what to leave. Even for the Pressy writing is a different ball game. In UPSC, do not practice Pressy writing. You even do not practice the RC part. So it's not that. It's just that, yes, you have been reading newspaper. That's the only benefit that you get being a
Okay.
UPSC aspirant.
Okay. So just one last thing. You have summarized each and everything very beautifully. Just one last thing. We know that this, you have already said that everything is same for even for this senior players and for the newcomers.
Yes.
And even there is no biasing towards any of the aspirant, be it the background, the educational background, or be it the type of the examination like UPSC or the RBI aspirants.
Mm-hmm.
So what will be your motivational quote for the future aspirants? How you want to motivate them for the future aspirants? Is there any motivational these wordings from your end? Because every aspirant faces a lot of hardship during their preparation. Like even you have faced a lot of hardship, and every year thousands of aspirants have faced, because only chosen few will be selected in the main merit list, and a lot will be facing this failure. So a lot of future aspirants will be looking at you, that how you want to motivate them.
Sir, the motivation line is, we all know this motivation line, and my mother also used to tell me a lot. And the line is that karmane vade kariste mafileshu kadachana. You just focus on your results. Focus on your efforts.
Efforts.
You should focus on your efforts. Results will follow, or even results may not follow. They will help you in some way or the other. You do not just focus on the results of what will happen to phase one or what will happen to my phase two. Just focus on your efforts. Sometimes it will yield results, sometimes it may not yield results, but you should know that if you're focusing on your efforts, not in the, even if not in RBI, in other sector. It's not, see, RBI is not the only best job it's available. We
Yeah.
should be knowing this. There are other jobs, there are other career paths in which you can excel, because after all, as I said in earlier, that all these are means. All these are means. Ultimately, the end product is different. So we are focusing on the ends. There are different things you can do with your NGO. If you, not just the NGO, you can do being an entrepreneur, being a cap. Entrepreneur can support a lot of things.
Yeah.
They can provide the necessary finance which is required for bringing changes. So ultimately, it's all about the end. There are different means. Yes, at this point of time, RBI is important, but in life, it's not that the RBI is the only thing.
Like in the Three Idiots movie, there was a dialogue कि काबिल बनो कामयाबी झक मार के पीछे आएगी.
Exactly. All the things are same. The line which is mentioned in the Gita.
Yeah. So Yash, it is pleasure talking to you. Honestly, it is one of the finest mock interview.
Thank you.
And trust me, we have really enjoyed it. And we would like to wish you a very, very, what I say, I'm not finding any word to congratulate you on your achievement.
Thank you, sir.
So all the best for your future adventures.
Thank you.
And take very good care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.